Welcome to the 2300 Pick 6 podcast. I'm your host, Dave Walker, about to do the final edition of NFL schedule analysis, and I give you my playoff picture for the NFC and AFC and my Super Bowl picks. At the end of the show, there will also be an announcement for this show, what will happen within 2 weeks, due to the fact that I will be at AEW in Philadelphia 2 weeks in a row. So I will let you know what's going to happen with the status of the show. But the first thing we are going to do, there's no Uno deck because it's only 5 teams. So the first one I'm going to do off the list is the Carolina Panthers. With their schedule right now, before I start with their schedule, Carolina surprised me a lot. I was very shocked. I thought that they would be a winless team, go 0-18 the very first. But now this is Bryce Young's third year, so he's got to step up. Now you got to get him to playoffs. If not, then what else do you do with him? Do you find another quarterback? Do you keep going with him? But we'll wait and see what occurs. So to break down their schedule, their first game is against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with that game, week 1, I am going to go, that will be, really? When my phone starts to act up at a wrong time. Well, there's one for a blooper reel. Come on. Okay, here we go. First game of the season is against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So with that, I'm going to give that a loss. Jacksonville bounces back. They get a win here. They're going to be 0-1. Against the Arizona Cardinals, bit of a toss-up game here. Since this game is in Arizona, if this was in Carolina, I would have said Carolina goes 1-1. But with this one, I'm going to say 0-2. They're going to lose that game to the Arizona Cardinals. Against the Atlanta Falcons, that will be a win because right now you have young quarterbacks here, and I think literally I can see down the road that Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans are all going to split with each other, but I see they will get swept by the Bucs. So right here in Carolina, you have a win there. You're going to be 1-2. Against the Patriots, that will be a loss. That's not easy to play in Foxborough. You're going to be 1-3. Against Miami, that will be a loss. I see that being a loss because I can see Tua literally torching that defense, going to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So you're at 1-4 here. Against Dallas, with or without Micah, I still think Micah will be there. I see Carolina losing this game here. You're going to be 1-5. Against the New York Football Jets, I'm going to give a win here. I think they get a win here. They're going to be 2-5. So you have a win here. Against Buffalo, that will be a loss. You will get killed. Against the Green Bay Packers, that one will be a loss right there. And Lambeau not going to get a win there. Against the Saints, this one will be a win. Spencer Rattler is the quarterback for that one, so they'll get a win here. Against the Falcons, they're going to lose there. I said they would split. That's going to be a loss. Against the 49ers, that will be a loss right there. They're going to take a loss to the 49ers. Against the Rams will kill them with that defense. They're going to get a win. They're going to get a loss there. Against New Orleans in New Orleans, that will be a loss. Against Bucs in Carolina, a loss. Against Seattle, even though that's Sam Darnold. Oh, wait, no, Sam Darnold was with the Panthers. So, in Seattle, I don't know how Sam Darnold's going to be. I'm going to give Seattle that one right there. And then against Tampa, if Tampa is trying to clinch the division, I'm not going to say a bye. I would say maybe for a higher seed, they're going to lose that one. So, a breakdown of Carolina's record. They will be 0-1 against the Jags, 0-2 against Arizona, 1-2 against Atlanta, 1-3 against New England, 1-4 against Miami, 1-5 against Dallas, 2-5 against the New York Jets, 2-6 against the Bills, 2-7 against Green Bay, 3-7 against New Orleans, 3-8 against Atlanta, 3-9 against the 49ers, 3-10 against the Rams, 3-11 against the Saints, 3-12 against Tampa, 3-13 against Seattle, and 3-14 against Tampa. They're going to go 3-14. Next one on the list is the Chicago Bears. Pulling up their schedule right now. For the Bears, they have Caleb Williams. This is now in his second full year. They have a new coach. Can they see what they can do to make the playoffs for the first time since whenever? But we'll wait and see. First game is against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. It's in Chicago. Chicago does do good at home. But this is a tough one here. I'm going to say a loss. I'm going to go loss on this one. I don't see Chicago beating them at home. I'm going to say a loss, even though J.J. McCarthy is a rookie in this one. I'm going to take a loss here. They're going to lose to Minnesota. I don't think they can start Aaron Jones and Addison and Justin Jefferson. So I'm going to say a loss here. Against Detroit, in Detroit, that is a loss. Against Dallas, again, regardless, with or without Micah, that is going to be a loss. They're going to be 0-3. Against the Raiders, that's going to be a win. They get a win there. Against the Commanders, that will be a loss. Against the New Orleans Saints, they'll get a win. Against Baltimore will be a loss. Against the Bengals, a loss. Against the Giants, they'll get the win there. They should get a win there against New York. Against the Vikings in Minnesota, loss. Against the Steelers, a win. Against the Eagles, a loss. Against the Packers, a loss. Against Cleveland, a win. Against Green Bay, I'm going to say that could be the Packers' fuck you game right there. So I'm going to call that the fuck you game. The Bears get a win here. Against the 49ers, a loss. And then against Detroit at the end of the season, that will be a loss right there. So a breakdown on the Bears' record right now. So the Bears are going to go 0-1 against Minnesota, 0-2 against Detroit, 0-3 against Dallas, 1-3 against the Raiders, 1-4 against Washington, 2-4 against the Saints, 2-5 against Baltimore, 2-6 against the Bengals, 3-6 against the New York Giants, 3-7 against Minnesota, 4-7 against Pittsburgh, 4-8 against Philadelphia, 4-5 against 4-8. Let's do this again. Blooper. So 0-1 against Chicago, against Minnesota, 0-2 against Detroit, 0-3 against Dallas, 1-3 against the Raiders, 2-3 against 1-4 against Washington, 1-5 against start again. Damn it. 0-1 against Minnesota, 0-2 against Detroit, 0-3 against Dallas, 1-3 against the Raiders, 1-4 against Washington, 2-4 against New Orleans, 2-5 against Baltimore, 2-6 against Cincinnati, 2-3 Let's do this again. 0-1 against the Vikings, 0-2 against Detroit, 0-3 against Dallas, 1-3 against the Raiders, 1-4 against Washington, 2-4 against the Saints, 2-5 against the Ravens, 2-6 against Cincinnati, 3-6 against the Giants, 3-7 against Minnesota, 4-7 against the Steelers, 4-8 against the Eagles, 4-9 against the Packers, 5-9 against the Browns, 6-9 against the Packers, 6-10 against the 49ers, and then 6-11. They're going to go 6-11. Next one on the list is the New Orleans Saints. So for the Saints, they have named Spencer Rattler as their quarterback. They have Kellen Moore as their coach. Right now, the Saints are in a rebuild due to Derek Carr retiring. It's going to be a little bit tough for them to win games. It's going to be tough. It's a rebuild. Now, if Kellen Moore pulls it and they get to the playoffs, I'll be very shocked, but I don't see it occurring. Really? Give me a sec here. Okay. Saints schedule. Week 1, they play against the Arizona Cardinals. There's a little bit of a tough one there. I'm going to say the Cardinals pull that one off. So I'm going to give the Cardinals that one. They're going to be 0-1. Against the 49ers, that's 0-2. Against the Seahawks, 0-3. Against the Bills, 0-4. Against the New York Giants, 1-4. Against the Patriots, I'm going to say 2-4. Against the Bears, 2-5. Against the Bucks, 2-6. Against the Rams, 2-7. They will get killed by the Rams. Against the Panthers, 2-8. Against the Falcons, 2-9. Against the Dolphins, 2-10. Against the Bucks, 2-11. Against the Panthers, 3-11. Against the Jets, I'm going to say 4-11. Against the Titans, I'm going to go 4-12. And then against the Falcons, that will be 4-13. So, out of this, a breakdown of the Saints' record. 0-1 against Arizona, 0-2 against the 49ers, 0-3 against the Seahawks, 0-4 against the Bills, 1-4 against the Giants, 2-4 against the Patriots, 2-5 against the Bears, 2-6 against the Bucks, 2-7 against the Rams, 2-8 against the Panthers, 3-8 against the Falcons, 3-9 against the Dolphins, 3-10 against the Bucks, 4-10 against the Panthers, 5-10 against the Jets, 5-11. So they're going to go 5-12. So I have the Saints going 5-12. Next one is the New York Football Jets. with their schedule. Right now they have a new coach in Aaron Glenn. They have Justin Fields as their quarterback. No Aaron Rodgers. Still have Breece Hall. Still have a good defense, but we're going to see how this works out for them with this new coach. So we're going to see. First game against the season, they play up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in New York. I could actually see the Jets spoiling this right there, so they're going to be 1-0. I can see them probably being 1-0 right now. Against the Bills, 1-1. Against the Bucks, 1-2. Against the Dolphins, 1-3. Against the Cowboys, regardless if Micah is there or not, 1-4. Against the Broncos, 1-5. No, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say, 1-5. Broncos get the win here. The Broncos are going to win that one. Against the Panthers, that one will be a loss. They're going to be 1-6. Against the Bengals, 1-7. Against Cleveland, 2. They'll get their second win. Against the Patriots, I think they're going to split both of those times. So I'm going to say this will be a loss in New England. Against the Ravens, that is a loss. Atlanta, I'm going to say a win here, a lucky win here. I'm going to say a lucky win. Against the Dolphins, a loss. Against the Jags, a loss. Against the Saints, that will be a loss. Against the Patriots, that will be a win. I see a split. And against the Bills, they lose, barring if the Bills don't. The only way they would beat the Bills is the Bills have everything wrapped up. But I don't know how that's going to be. We'll wait and see down the road when we cross that bridge. So a breakdown out of the Jets' schedule in their games. They are going to be 1-0 against the Steelers, 1-1 against the Bills, 1-2 against the Bucks, 1-3 against the Dolphins, 1-4 against the Cowboys, 1-5 against the Broncos. I said 2-5 against the Panthers, 2-6 against the Bengals, 3-6 against the Browns, 3-7 against New England, 3-8 against the Ravens, 4-8 against the Falcons, 4-9 against the Dolphins, 4-10 against the Jags, 4-11 against the Saints, 5-11 against the Patriots. So they will go 5-12. They're not going to make playoffs. It's a first trial run for them. The last one is the Jacksonville Jaguars. For the Jaguars, they hired a new coach. Trevor Lawrence is back healthy. Now, if this team can stay healthy, Trevor Lawrence, everyone can stay healthy. There's a possibility they can get back in the playoffs again. It was just this year they didn't. And there also will be some Tony Khan reps because I watch AEW, so there probably might be some knocks on him or some positivity on him at times. So we'll wait and see. Just right now, I got nothing negative against him right now for the moment. He's safe for the moment. Alrighty, here we go. Jaguars schedule. Their first game is up against the Carolina Panthers. That will be a win right there. Against the Cincinnati Bengals, that will be a loss. Against Houston will be a loss. Against the 49ers, I see a win there. Against the Chiefs, a loss. Against Seattle, a win. Against the Rams, it's a UK game, and they do good in the UK, so I'm going to say Jag, get this one. Against the Raiders, they get a win. Against the Texans, I don't see a split here. Unfortunately, I don't. I see this one being a sweep, unfortunately. They're going to lose that one. Against the Chargers, they'll get a win. Against the Cardinals, they'll get a win. Against the Titans, they'll get a win. Against the Colts, they'll get a win. Against the Jets, they will get a win. Broncos, they're going to get a loss because it's not easy to play in Denver. That one will be a loss. Against Indianapolis, a win. And against the Titans, a win. So the Jaguars' record will be 1-0 against Carolina, 1-1 against the Bengals, 1-2 against Houston, 2-2 against the 49ers. All right, I don't know why my phone is deciding to act up here. So let's try this again because my phone decided to act up. 1-0 against Carolina, 1-1 against the Bengals, 1-2 against Houston, 2-2 against the 49ers, 2-3 against the Chiefs, 3-3 against the Seahawks, 4-3 against the Rams, 5-3 against the Raiders, 5-4 against Houston, 6-4 against the Chargers, 7-4 against the Cards, 8-4 against the Titans, 9-4 against the Colts, 10-4 against the Jets, 10-5 against Denver. Okay, 10-5 against Denver. I said 10-5 against Denver, so I don't know why this is doing this. All right, let's try this again. 10-5 against Denver because my phone is wanting to act the fuck up right now. 11-5 against the Colts. 12-5. So they'll go 12-5. They'll make the playoffs. We'll see how far they're going to go. And speaking of the playoff picture, I'm going to give my predictions on division winners and my playoff picture. So for my division winners for the East, could go either way. And a lot of Cowboy fans are going to. I'm a realist of a Cowboy fan, so I know the reality of my team. For the ones that are bandwagoners, the quote the words as Simon says, the 80%ers who have never been to a game and who have watched on TV. Go to a game and you'll see what I'm talking about. For the ones who are the 20%ers like me who have been to Arlington and to Texas Stadium. So right now, you may not like what I have to hear. If you don't want to hear it, turn off. For the ones that don't want to hear. For the rest, you can stay and watch. So, my division for the East are either going to be Philadelphia mostly or Washington, because there is something called the Curse of Donovan McNabb by my friend Wolf, who has come up with that, which is ever since the Eagles have won the division and won McNabb, there's never been a repeat back-to-back winner. I think that curse gets broken by the Eagles. They get the division. The only other ways they don't get this division is if, and I'm going to say this right now, I am not wishing an injury upon anybody. So, quote this, I do not wish it. Saying unless Jalen gets hurt, Saquon gets hurt, any one of their key members get hurt. That's the only way Washington takes this division. I do not see the Giants taking this division because of Russ, and I don't see Dallas taking it because I cannot trust Dak and I cannot trust this fucking team. So that one I will go with either Philly or Washington. But if, by chance, if Dallas wins it or Washington wins it, no, or New York wins it, which will be highly unlikely, this button gets hit during the end of the year. We'll see if that occurs. We'll wait and see. For the NFC North, I have the Detroit Lions repeating. After all the injuries they had, they would have made it to the championship had it not been due to injuries. But even though, yes, Aaron Glenn is gone, Ben Johnson is now gone. So the defense is going to look a little different, and the offense is going to look a little bit different with a different coordinator. But I still think that this team can still win their division, still is one of my Super Bowl picks, and still can go to a championship. So I'm going to take Detroit on that one. For the NFC West, I'm going to go with the Rams. Right now that Debo has left San Francisco and he's went to the Commanders, right now I don't trust Brock Purdy, and San Francisco giving him that money I think is a waste, and I think they got sold a bill of goods. You're going to have to rely more on Jennings, Pearsall, George Kittle, and see if that defense can get you anything there. I don't know what's going to happen in that one there. Next one is the NFC South. I see Tampa repeating. The only other way I can't see Tampa repeating would be is you have two wild cards here. One is Penix with the Atlanta Falcons. See how he does it. The only reason I'm not going to say Atlanta is because of Raheem Morris, because he's not a good coach. That's the one thing out of this. The second is with the Saints. Due to Spencer Rattler, I don't know. He's going to have a full season. I don't know how Kellen Moore does with this. Third is Bryce Young. Now, he really has to improve. If he doesn't get them to the playoffs, then I can't say I don't know if this man's going to be a bust. But we're going to wait and see what occurs down the road. Now, for my AFC division winners, I'm going to go. Give me a second here. I got to pull up my phone. Come on. There we go. Okay, so for the AFC teams. So here's how we're going to do this for the AFC. Okay, so for the AFC East, I'm going with the Bills right here. This team has come close every time trying to get to the Super Bowl this year. Made it to the AFC Championship, but could not beat the Chiefs yet again. Now, I say for the Bills, is it a missing piece on offense? Is it a missing piece on defense? Is it coaching? Because it's not Josh Allen, because this man can get the job done. We don't know what it is, why they cannot make it to a Super Bowl. But they still can win their division. I see them winning their division in this one. AFC North is a toss-up between either the Ravens or the Bengals. But for this podcast, I'm going to go Baltimore on this one. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that defense. Now, Mark Andrews is going to have a better year. That drop's going to be out of his head. Now, the only way the Bengals can win their division is they've got to get to a fast start. Most of the time, they start off slow, and that starting off slow will come back to haunt them. If they can get a fast start, I'm not saying, hey, they got to go 4-0. If they can get a fast start in the month of September and keep it riding, then they can win their division. I think they're going to split with Baltimore. But if they sweep them, then you got a chance of getting your division. But in this I'm going to go Baltimore Ravens on this one. For the AFC South, I'm going to go Houston. As much as Trevor Lawrence is coming back healthy, I got to go with Houston because C.J. Stroud has been on fire. This team knows what to do, but the only thing they got to do is they got to find pieces. Pieces on offense, pieces on defense, where they could be up in the upper echelon ranks with the Bills, with the Ravens, with the Chiefs. But that's what they have to do first in order to get there. But I still see the Bills winning the division. And for the AFC West, unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Oh, and bear in mind, Chiefs fans and Taylor Swifties that don't like me right now, she's seen on my screen, and the Chiefs win, I'm doubling down. But if they lose, I am going to go full-blown uncensored and laugh my fucking ass off anytime on the Chiefs loss. But that is going to be the one the Chiefs take that division. Now, for my playoff matches, I'm going to start with the NFC. I have certain scenarios how these will go, and my certain playoff and Super Bowl predictions and wins. So here we go for my first playoff prediction. For my first one is the Eagles as a 1 seed, Detroit as a 2, the Rams as a 3, the Bucks as a 4, the Commanders as a 5, the Packers as a 6, and the Vikings as a 7. Now, with your first round matchup, you'll have the Eagles with a bye. You'll have the Vikings taking on the Lions. You'll have the Packers taking on the Rams, and the Commanders versus the Bucks. Vikings-Lions, I see the Lions winning that game. Packers-Rams, I see the Rams winning that one. You would have Lions-Rams in the divisional. And Commanders-Bucks, this is a game that could go a toss-up either way. Does not matter who pulls that one up. Even though this one's in Tampa, I'm going to go Washington pulls this one off again, very, very close, where they have to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, in your divisional, you have the Rams and the Lions. The Lions would win that one close. And then you have the Commanders and the Eagles, and I think the Eagles will kill the Commanders at home because we all know how the Eagles are at home in the playoffs. So the Eagles win that one. And then for your NFC Championship, you have the Lions versus the Eagles. The Eagles winning the NFC Championship, going to the Super Bowl. And once I get down further down the road in this, we'll see who their matchup will be. Second scenario, this one is if the Lions had the 1 seed, Philly is a 2, the Rams stay at 3, the Bucks are staying at 4, the Commanders stay at a 5, the Packers are a 6, and the Vikings are a 7. Matchups would be Vikings-Eagles, Packers-Rams, and Bucks-Commanders. Now, it's Vikings-Eagles. I've seen this story so many times with Minnesota going into Philadelphia, and Minnesota usually gets their ass kicked going into Philadelphia. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. Packers-Rams, I'm going to say the Rams win this one again. Buccaneers-Commanders, Commanders pull it off again. So in this one, we have our NFC matchups from the division. You have the Washington going to Detroit, and you have the Rams going back to Philadelphia, which is all last year's matchups. But in this one, it's a different way around. The Lions get their revenge over the Commanders, and the Eagles do beat the Rams. And then you have Lions-Eagles in Detroit for an NFC Championship matchup, where Detroit wins this one. And they play in the Super Bowl against whomever. Now, our third one would be, now this is the what-if scenario if the Commanders win the division. So you have the Lions as a 1 still. You have the Rams as a 2. You have the Bucks as a 3. Because I think the Buccaneers are a lot better than Washington, in my opinion. And you have the Commanders at a 4. Now, your 5 is Philadelphia. Your 6 is the Packers. And your 7 is Minnesota. Now, your matchups are going to consist of this. You have Vikings-Rams, Packers-Bucks, Eagles-Commanders. So in this one, you would have the Rams beating the Vikings. You would have the Buccaneers beating the Packers. And then you would have the Eagles beating the Commanders. Now for your NFC Championship, your divisionals would be Eagles-Lions, Bucks, and Rams. The Lions would beat the Eagles at home in a very, very close matchup in Detroit in an overtime. Bucks-Rams, you would have the Rams win with the defense, and then you would have Rams-Lions as your NFC Championship with the Lions winning that one. Another one this time would be, let's say the Eagles win the division, and by hypothetical, the Rams got the bye. So the Rams would be a 1, Detroit would be a 2, Philly would be a 3, the Bucks would be 4, 5 would be Washington, 6 would be the Packers, and 7 would be Minnesota. You would have Vikings-Lions, Packers-Eagles, and Commanders versus the Bucks. Lions would beat the Vikings, the Eagles would beat the Packers, and the Commanders would beat the Buccaneers in Tampa. Now, for your divisional, you would have the Eagles, Lions, and Commanders, Rams. This one, being in Detroit, the Lions would win this one. And then you would have the Rams beating the Commanders, and you would have Lions versus the Rams in this one, but the Lions still win, even on the road. Nothing against the Rams. I just don't. Stafford's on his last leg, and in the final section, I don't see him going back to the Super Bowl. Now, this is the other one, still with the Rams, but this time with the Commanders winning the division. So you have Rams as 1, Lions as 2, the Bucks at a 3, the Commanders at a 4, the Eagles at 5, the Packers at 6, and the Vikings at 7. So your matchups are going to be Vikings-Rams, Packers-Lions, and Eagles and Commanders. So you'll have the Lions winning. You would have the Bucks beating... Wait, did I have the Bucks in this one? Yeah, I did. You had the Buccaneers versus the Packers. I take that back. So I must have typed this up wrong. Sorry. So it would be Lions versus the Vikings. Lions would win. The Bucks versus the Packers. I can see Tampa pulling that off. Then you'd have the Commanders and the Eagles beating Washington. Then your divisional would consist of Eagles versus the Lions and the Bucks and the Rams. This one being, again, the same matchup with the Lions winning. So out of all this, my 2 Super Bowl picks out of the NFC are going to be Philadelphia and Detroit. Now we go into the AFC picture, which is this one I had the Bills as a 1, the Chiefs as a 2, 3 is Baltimore, 4 Houston, 5 Cincinnati, 6 Denver, and 7 Jacksonville. Now your first matchup will be Jacksonville and Kansas City, Denver and Baltimore, and Cincinnati versus Houston. Now, the Chiefs would beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Ravens would beat the Broncos, and the Texans would beat the Bengals. For your divisional, you would have Ravens-Chiefs and Texans-Bills. In this one, I hate to say it, the Chiefs would win that one. And then the Bills would beat the Texans. Then you would get Allen and Mahomes again, this time in Buffalo. In this one, I had the Buffalo Bills winning because I'm going to say right now, honestly, I do not see the Chiefs making it to the Super Bowl this year. I could either see the Chiefs being 2 and done, 1 and done if they get a bye, or losing in a championship this year. Next one we have is the Bengals. Now, if the Bengals go off to a fast start and maintain it, they could be a 1. So I have Cincinnati as a 1, Buffalo as a 2, Kansas City as a 3, Houston at 4, Baltimore at 5, Denver at 6, and the Jaguars at a 7. You would have Jags-Bills, Broncos-Chiefs, and Ravens-Texans. So the Bills would beat Jacksonville, the Chiefs would beat Denver, and Baltimore would beat the Texans. So you would have the Chiefs-Bills, this time in a divisional, in Buffalo, and you would have the Ravens and the Bengals. And in this one, I would have Ravens-Bills, Bills winning that one, going back to Buffalo. Next one you would have if the Chiefs were the 1. And I pray to God that does not happen. I'm sorry I put my bias into this. I don't hate the Chiefs. I just do not like Taylor Swift ever since Taylor got there. Now, once Travis Kelce retires, whenever, and he settles off in the sunset with her and he wants to make babies with her, then I am all for it and I will take my hatred away from the Chiefs. But this is not me with a hate on the Chiefs. After what I saw in the Super Bowl last year, I don't see them making the Super Bowl. Chiefs would be a 1, Buffalo a 2, Ravens a 3, Houston 4, Cincinnati 5, Denver 6, and Jacksonville as a 7. So you would have the Jags and the Bills, the Broncos and the Ravens, and the Bengals and the Texans. You would have the Jags losing to Buffalo, you would have the Ravens beating Denver, and you would have Houston beating Cincinnati. You would have Ravens-Bills in Buffalo, and you would have Houston and Kansas City. It would be Bills-Chiefs again in Kansas City, but Buffalo getting their revenge and going to the Super Bowl. Now our final one we have is the Ravens as a 1, the Bills as a 2, the Chiefs as a 3, the Texans as a 4, Cincinnati as a 5, Denver as a 6, and Jacksonville as a 7. So you'd have Jags, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs, Bengals, Texans. So you would have the Chiefs and the Bills. So you would have Chiefs, Bills. So you would have Jags, Bills. So you would have the Bills beating the Jags. You would have the Chiefs beating the Broncos, and the Texans beating the Bengals. So you would have Bills, Chiefs in Buffalo, and then you would have Texans, Ravens. It would be Bills versus Ravens in Baltimore, but Baltimore gets their revenge and going to the Super Bowl. So for my Super Bowl matchups, it would be the Eagles and the Bills. I would have Buffalo winning the Super Bowl. Eagles, Ravens. I would have Philadelphia winning that one. Lions, Bills. I would have the Lions. I would have the Bills winning that one. Lions, Ravens. I would have Detroit winning that one. Now, an announcement before I go and end this show. The next 2 weeks, I will be in AEW in Philadelphia, the 2300 Arena, so the normal schedule is going to be a little bit different. Monday, I will not do a show because that is Labor Day. Now, if anybody wants to do a show on Labor Day, I don't mind doing it. Please let me know. But to me, my definition of Labor Day is the government gave you a day off not to work, and I'm going to do that. I can do it Tuesday, which I am free. Wednesday, after I get back from Dynamite, I will do it. Thursday, I'm not going to do because that is the game, and that is Eagles-Dallas, pending how I am, barring I'm not too inebriated, if the Cowboys win, and I mean if. That's a big if there. If it does happen, I'll be shocked. Friday I cannot do because I will be at a casino watching Chiefs and the Chargers at a casino. The following second week I can do either Wednesday. Well, no, I can't do Wednesday. I take that back. Can't do Thursday either because Tuesday I cannot do because where D-Walk is right and wrong. Wednesday are my own picks. I want to do that before I head down there for that last show. I could do Friday, but I'm free. Saturday, I am free. Oh, let me take that back, too. Saturday after Collision, I go to, too. So if anybody wants to do a show Saturday after Collision, if I'm back here, I don't mind. But if not, if I'm at my folks' house, it's not going to happen. So I can do that one. And then that's about it. But then after week 2, we go back to normal operations, which would be Wednesday, I would do a show. Friday, I would do a show. Well, no, not Friday. It's Friday that I go to Fuller's. Saturday, I will do a show with Joe Law or whomever. And then that's about it. Sunday, the only way I would do Sunday is if I'm at a pay-per-view at AEW, which won't be until November. We wait till we cross that bridge. But all in all, before I begin and end, by the way, I will be giving out cards for our new show. If anybody wants to follow, I'll give out the business card when I'm at AEW and in the casinos. But before I end and bid adieu, it's just been enough time to talk. It's time for kickoff. I'm Dave Walker, and we'll see you on the field. Goodbye, everybody.